Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here today. I have a card for you, two cards actually, two different sizes, a 5 by 7 and then a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We'll be using these beautiful supplies that came from the Spellbinders July 2021 Card Kit of the Month subscription called Damask Daydreams. So I'm going to take these supplies that came in the kit. This is an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to trim it down to 10 inches on this side, flip it around and trim it down to 7 inches on the other side. And then I'm going to flip it back around and score it at 5 inches. So that way that makes my 5 by 7 card base. And we'll be ready to go. All right, so for this card, these pattern papers are 6 by 6 inches. So I'm going to trim this one down to 3 1/2. And then this one I'm just going to trim down to another 1/2 inch. And so I'll have 4 inches here across the top. That'll give me an inch on the sides and all the sides all the way around. So those are, if you put those two together, it's 4 by 6. And I wanted to put a mat of gold because I thought that would just be really beautiful. So I just cut this to 1/4 of an inch larger all the way around. So that would be 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to lay out these elements on my card so you can see what it'll look like. And I'm using the stamp set that comes in the kit. I'm going to stamp this little sentiment, but I'm only going to use one word. So I pulled out the yellow cardstock from this kit, and I'm just going to trim it so that I have enough to stamp this little greeting here. And like I said, I'm going to trim it down to, I'm just going to trim off the one word B. So my card will say Be Fabulous. So I'm just going to stamp this in using my precision press stamping tool here. I like this tool because if the first time I stamp something it doesn't turn out, I can always go ahead and restamp it and not worry about having the image not aligned properly, so it won't blur or anything. It'll be perfect. Okay, so now that I've stamped this, I'm just going to trim off that word B with my little scissors, and I'm going to attach it to my card. And first I'm going to make sure that it's nice and trimmed all the way around so it's even on both sides. And then we'll be ready to assemble this card. I'm just going to take everything off. Now, I didn't want to waste that gold paper. Christmas is coming up, and I like to use the gold foil paper on a lot of my Christmas cards. So since it's going to be covered up with the pattern paper, I didn't think it was a big deal to cut that center portion out and save that gold paper to use for other projects. Just trying to be a little bit frugal there with saving that specialty cardstock. So I'm just going to adhere this to my card base using that double-sided adhesive that also comes in the kit. This kit is a great deal. I know I always say that, but it's just so true. And then once I get all of these adhesive strips on this pattern paper, we will put it down and see what it looks like. Now that was a little bit over the edge, so I just folded that adhesive back. It was no problem at all. So I'm just using that white and gold piece there to help me align that other pattern paper on my card. And then I'll be ready to attach that strip. I think this is such a beautiful and elegant card. I really love these very detailed, ornate pattern papers that are in this kit. Again, it's the Damask Daydreams for July of 2021 Spellbinders. And also these little pieces of ephemera come in the kit. You have that word fabulous that has a gorgeous purple gradient on it. You have that gorgeous butterfly sticker there. You get like 6 to 7, maybe even 8 of those butterflies in different sizes and so on and so forth and colors. And this fabulous word, I'm just going to use some of my liquid adhesive. It's Tombow Mono to adhere that to my card, and then also to adhere this word Be. So my card says, write your own story, be fabulous. And I am gonna, if you stay tuned to the end of the card, end of the video, you'll see that I'm gonna decorate the inside of the card. Now for this card, I'm using the card bases that came in the kit. This is just an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm trimming both of those pages down to that 4 1/2 by 5, or sorry, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I'm cutting it on the diagonal by just aligning those either ends of those points on my paper trimmer. And then I'm going to adhere it to my card base, and we'll be ready to go. So this time the size of the card is different than the first one that I made, and the layout is a little bit different as well. So instead of doing just a vertical design, I'm doing sort of a diagonal one here by cutting these papers in half diagonally. And then I'm going to attach it to my card base. So there we go. I think that looks quite beautiful. And that word fabulous, I'm going to use some vellum. I'm going to adhere it to some vellum because I felt like the pattern behind it was a little bit busy. So hopefully this vellum will give it a background to help it stand out from the background so the eye can see it better. So I'm just going to fussy cut this out and then adhere it to the front of my card diagonally. Now I'll bet this word fabulous is one of the favorite die cut shapes that come in this kit for most people, I think. It's just really beautiful. It's interesting how when you get a kit you look through it and certain pieces just really attract your eye and that you really like, and you just want to make cards with them. That's what's so exciting about getting these kits every month. It just sparks your creativity, and it's so much fun to play around with all the supplies and make things with it. Okay, so now I'm using a purple butterfly. This is another one of those gorgeous butterflies, and it has several layers. It has like that acetate on top of it with that beautiful glitter dots that you see there on that butterfly. Now I'm just going to stamp that sentiment again. It's the same sentiment on some vellum, and I'm going to cut out the word B. I didn't like the look of the yellow paper on this particular card for some reason. Maybe because it was a white background instead of the purple background. I don't know. So I just went ahead and stamped it on vellum instead. And I'm putting it right there in front of the word fabulous, if you could see that. Now on to the inside of the card. So I wanted to carry over the same design to the inside of the card. So I'm just using some of the leftover pattern paper, and I'm going to attach those two pieces together, and then I'm going to stamp the words "You are beautiful." And I'm going to stamp the words "You are" on that purple paper, and then the word "beautiful" I'm going to stamp. I'm going to use some StazOn ink instead of the VersaFine Black Onyx ink to stamp that word "beautiful" onto the vellum. And I'm using the StazOn is because it's once it dries it'll be permanent on that vellum. Since vellum isn't, I don't think it's porous. It's more like a hard surface that's not porous, so you need something other than a dye ink, because dye ink traditionally soaks into the fibers of the paper and dyes the paper, and it won't work with vellum. It'll just sit there and never dry. So you definitely want to use either a pigment ink or the StazOn ink, and I like the StazOn ink because the pigment is kind of oily and takes a long time to dry, and that's better. It's usually better on papers, but or if you want to do some heat embossing. So for this second card here, I'm going to take the same words, "You are beautiful," and I'm going to stamp them with the VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and I'm just going to stamp them on the inside of my card. And you can see there that the word "beautiful" didn't stamp very well, which is why I love this stamping tool here by We Are Memory Keepers. It's the Precision Press stamping tool. It's the original one. I've had it for a really long time. I couldn't wait to buy it when it came out because the Misty was just a little bit too expensive, I thought. The Misty's another stamping tool. If you're a crafter, you've probably heard of it. But anyway, I'm just fussy cutting out the word "beautiful" once it dried. I did give it time to dry, which you didn't see in the video, but definitely be sure to give it time to dry. It doesn't take that long. That dries on really quickly. But just make sure it's dry before you handle it. Otherwise, you'll smudge it and have to redo it. Okay, so again, using my liquid adhesive here to attach this word "beautiful," and I just love that the design carries over on the inside of these cards. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you like the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I put out new videos. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.